What's up guys? While we all waiting for the next game by the From Software studio called Elden Ring, I thought that it might be a good time to revisit all the existing games by the From Software studio which are well worth playing into. So, if you are a die-hard fan of the Souls series, or maybe you've just discovered the whole thing for yourself and wondering which game should you start with, wait no more, I've got just the answer for you. Alright, I came up with the 3 different orders in which you can start playing games of the Souls series. So let's check them out. First one is very obvious one. I call it the order of appearance, which means the games in this list will be presented in the order in which From Software Studio was releasing them. Alright, and the first game in this list is obviously Demon's Souls, which has been released in 2009. It is also worth mentioning that the Demon's Souls has been only released on the PlayStation 3 and was the Sony's exclusive and still is. This means that you can't play this game on any other console apart from PlayStation 3. So after release of the Demon's Souls on PlayStation 3, From Software Studio got a lot of traction and it was clear that there is enough demand in such kind of games. And therefore they came up with their next game, which was called Dark Souls. And this time this game has been released for multiple platforms such as Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and PC. It was released in 2012. This was actually my very first Souls game that I've played at that time on my Xbox 360. Dude, I was absolutely blown away by this game. 2 years later, From Software came up with the sequel to the original Dark Souls game, and it was again multi-platform, and it was called Dark Souls 2, and it was released in 2014. Interesting fact about Dark Souls 2, it wasn't made by the Hidetaki Miyazaki, it was actually made by other game designer, and some of the people consider this game as not a canonical Souls game. It is the biggest game in the Souls trilogy in terms of the world size. So in 2015, the new generation consoles arrived and Sony snagged another exclusive from the From Software called Bloodborne, which has been released in 2015. Now, Bloodborne was a fresh and new take on the well-defined Souls formula. Lots of people, including me, consider Bloodborne as one of the best games of the From Software studio. Man, this game was absolutely amazing in terms of the visual design, in terms of the gameplay and the story in general. On top of that, they introduced the whole new layer of the dungeons, which people could play in the end game by finding different recipes and codes how to unlock those dungeons. Another interesting fact about the Bloodborne is that this game finally got a new game engine, which meant the major bump in the graphics. And just 1 year later, after the Bloodborne has been released, the die-hard fans of the Souls series got the Dark Souls 3, and it was released in 2016. So after the Dark Souls 3, there were 3 years of nothing, and finally in 2019, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has been released. And just 1 year later, the remake for the very first original Demon's Souls game has been released. But this time it was made not by the From Software studio, it was made actually by another studio called Bluepoint. But these guys, they've made a very thorough remake. And yours truly is desperately trying to get through it at this point. I have the whole playlist, links in the description down below. It is also worth mentioning that the Demon's Souls remake is also a Sony exclusive, which means you can only play it on the current gen PlayStation, which is PlayStation 5. Alright, so the first order is done. Let's go to the next one. Second one will be based on your gameplay style. So there are 2 different schools of the gameplay in the Souls games. One is more defensive one, which involves shielded and paced gameplay. This all comes from from the Souls games, such as Demon Souls and all the games of the Dark Souls trilogy. The opposite to it is offensive type of gameplay, which is more about parrying and being evasive. This kind of gameplay is coming from the games like Bloodborne and Sekiro. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be offensive in the games of the Souls series, so you also can do only parrying and evasions. For example, if your character class is more specified in the critical damage weapon or dexterity builds. But on the opposite side of things, you can't be too defensive in the Bloodborne and Sekiro. These games were specifically built to embrace more action-based kind of gameplay. Alright, we've done with the gameplay styles. Let's move on to the third one. And the third one will be a difficulty-based one, with the easiest one at the beginning and the hardest one at the end. Of course, this one could be very subjective, and it is my personal opinion. If you guys think that the list should be different, please leave your comment down below. Alright, so the easiest the first one, the hardest is the last one. In this list, I would like to place the Dark Souls trilogy as the first one. So why Dark Souls trilogy? Two reasons. Reason number one, Dark Souls trilogy promotes more streamlined progress. It means that you don't need to jump in between different areas and locations in order to progress in the game. This is different to the Demon Souls game, where you have your central hub and each location or environment or maybe world are absolutely standalone, and you can't actually go from one to another without visiting the nexus. This brings extra hassle and complexity. Reason number two, the bosses in the Dark Souls trilogy are more straightforward, meaning that it is easier to figure out how to defeat them, which is different to the bosses in the Demon Souls, where pretty much every boss is a puzzle, when you can't just bluntly attack the boss head on, which is a nice segue to the next game in the difficulty-based list, and this game is Demon Souls. Now, I've covered all the reasons why I've placed this game after the Dark Souls instead of placing it before, even though it has been released before the Dark Souls trilogy. Bloodborne introduced more offensive kind of gameplay to the Souls formula. So you can't protect yourself from the attacks anymore with the shield. You have to evade, you have to parry, and you have to be fast in order to survive in the Bloodborne. And the final one is Sekiro. Sekiro is another step up from the Bloodborne. It not only had all the offensive kinds of gameplay from the Bloodborne, such as parrying and evasions, it also did introduce the vertical traversal, which obviously brings even more complexity to the already action-based gameplay. So there you have it. These were my three different orders in how you can play the games. Now, I have a bonus for you, don't leave just now. So if you are similar as me, waiting for the Elden Ring, and it looks like you don't have anything to play at the moment, unless you've completed all the games by 100% and the DLCs as well, and collected all the trophies from the games, maybe I have an answer for you. So stay tuned. There are a few optional locations in the Souls games that could be easily missed if you go through the main story. So here's just a few examples for you for the inspiration. Dark Souls 1 had such locations. It was Great Hollow and the Ash Lake, which you could access from the Light Town. And those locations were just as amazing as the main gameplay locations. The whole Great Hollow is the hollow of a huge giant tree in which you slowly traverse down. Here's another one. Bloodborne has the Forsaken Cainhurst Castle, which could have been only accessed by fulfilling certain prerequisites. It is quite a scary one. This location has unique enemies and a whole optional boss. Oh yeah, and don't forget about DLCs. Pretty much every game had DLCs apart from the Sekiro and Demon Souls. So if you haven't touched any of those DLCs, I have a good news for you. There is a ton of content inside DLCs. And apart from just gameplay itself, they also add on story and lore. So this is it for today, guys, and if you have your own lists and would like to share them, please leave a comment down below. See you on the next one.